2 hours later, people would tell me how calm I sounded on the recording. They didn't see the rifle. They didn't smell the hot rubber. They just heard my voice saying I was cooperating. Let me back up. My name is Vanessa. I was driving my husband's company sedan downtown for his probate hearing when the lights hit me. Red, blue, too close. 3 cruisers slid in like they'd practiced it. One in front, one behind, one angled off my left. A loudspeaker barked. Engine off, hands on the wheel. I did it. Slow. I narrated every move because I've watched enough videos to know silence scares people. My palms stuck to the leather. The car smelled faintly like old coffee and plastic. Then I saw the barrel. Black circle. Right at my windshield. My stomach dropped, not panic. Something colder. Driver, the officer said, this vehicle has been reported stolen. You are flagged as emotionally unstable and possibly armed. I almost laughed, I swear. I hadn't held anything more dangerous than a stapler in years, but I kept my mouth shut. Talking back is how things go sideways. I am cooperating, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. I need you to verify the VIN, and I need the reporting party's name and the exact time the report was filed. Please record that request. There was a pause. Radios hissed. I could hear boots on asphalt. I could hear my own breath, thin and fast. I slowed it down on purpose. That was a stupid little decision, but it helped. I wasn't crying. That surprised me. What hit instead was this clean thought. Sharp as a paper cut, this wasn't about a car. This was about time. About making sure I didn't get to that courtroom at 8:30, I said again. Steady. I'm on my way to probate court, downtown. My husband's estate. Someone muttered. Another radio crackled. The rifle didn't move. Quick aside, if you've never been stared down by a gun for a mistake you didn't make, it changes how loud the world feels. They told me to stay put. Verification in progress. I watched the clock on the dash tick forward. Each second felt like a small theft. That's when I knew whoever did this didn't need me arrested. They just needed me late. And that was when I finally understood who I was really dealing with. One of the officers stepped closer, voice low and careful. Ma'am, the registration doesn't come back in your name. I know. It's the company's Klein Industrial Holdings, I replied. He read his screen. Your husband's? Yes. He passed 6 weeks ago. Probate is pending. So control of assets is transitional. I kept my hands visible despite the ache in my wrists. I have authorization emails and insurance records. I've driven this car for years. But I understand you need to verify. He glanced at me, noting my lack of panic. Who reported it stolen? My daughter-in-law, Claire Hale, I said, my voice flat. She's an acting officer during the transition. On paper, she has standing. Which is why I'm not arguing. I'm asking you to check the facts. Another officer leaned in, surprised. You seem very informed. I handled compliance and litigation for my husband's business. I shrugged. I paid attention. If you miss your hearing, he asked quietly. I looked toward the downtown skyline. Then someone else can be appointed temporary administrator. Every minute I sit here is a minute handed to her. The radio crackled again. A name repeated Claire. Whatever she told them had worked well enough to put a rifle in my face. The radio crackled again, sharper this time. Dispatch reading straight from a screen. Reporting party confirmed. Claire Hale. I didn't flinch. That surprised me more than the name itself. The officer nearest my window leaned in a fraction. She claims you took the vehicle after a family dispute. I breathed out through my nose. She would. There's an addendum, he continued. Reporting party states you may be emotionally unstable, possibly headed to the courthouse, and may have access to a weapon. I let that sit for a second. not to perform shock, to decide how careful I needed to be. I am unarmed, I told him, and I am headed to probate court. Downtown, 8:30 hearing, please log that. He glanced at his partner. Something shifted there. Not trust, but doubt. I'd like the CAD log number and the incident reference. I added, for my records. That definitely changed the tone. You planning to file a complaint? Another officer asked from behind him. I'm planning to tell the truth later, I replied, which goes smoother when numbers match. Silence, then keys tapping. Someone muttered my last name. Someone else repeated Claire's. The first officer straightened. You're very calm for someone being flagged high risk. I don't want anyone here making a mistake they can't take back. I said, including me. That landed. Not like a plea, like a boundary. He nodded once. We're waiting on verification. Understood, I replied. While we wait, please note I've requested confirmation of the reporting party's authority and the exact time of the call. Another pause. The air felt thinner. The rifle was still there, but it wasn't the center of the moment anymore. Claire had given them a story. I was giving them a timeline. And timelines don't care how convincing someone sounds. The clock on the dash ticked again. Somewhere across the city, filings were being stamped. I broke the silence myself. I need the exact time the report was filed. The officer nearest me hesitated. Not refusal, calculation. He turned slightly, spoke into his shoulder mic, low voice. Numbers, codes. Then he looked back. 6:48 a.m. I nodded once. Thank you. I didn't rush the next part. I wanted it clean. I left my house at 6:42, I told him. That's on my gate camera. I can pull it up if needed. Another pause. Someone shifted their boots. The radio hissed again. So she called after you left. He muttered. Yes, I replied. After she watched me go. That landed differently. I could feel it. The story they'd been holding started to sag under its own weight. This wasn't theft prevention. I continued. Still even. If she thought I stole the car, she would have called while it was in the driveway. She waited until I was already on the road. One of the officers glanced toward the cruiser behind me. So this was an interception. Procedurally. Yes, I said. Not emotionally. Procedurally. The word mattered. I could see it register. I'm requesting verification of the VIN. I went on. Confirmation of corporate registration. And I need to know if this vehicle was flagged stolen prior to today. The officer lifted a hand slightly. Not at me. To the others. A quiet signal. Slow down. A different voice came over the radio. Older. Calmer. A supervisor. Hold on cuffs. The voice ordered. Verify first. Keep it procedural. That was the moment the rifle lowered a few inches. Not gone. Just no longer the center of gravity. The officer in front of me met my eyes for the first time. You understand, this is still an active stop. I do, I said, and I'm not asking you to ignore anything. I'm asking you to verify everything. He nodded. Not agreement. Respect. The clock on the dash clicked forward again. 8:03. I could almost picture Claire in a quiet office somewhere, clicking submit, building a record while I stood here counting seconds. Whatever she was making, it wasn't meant for the police. It was meant for a judge. The officer stepped back from my window. His voice stayed neutral. Ma'am, you're cleared to continue. One unit will follow at distance until verification is complete. Understood. I replied, thank you for documenting everything. No lights, no sirens, just presence. I merged back into traffic with my hands still steady on the wheel. My shoulders didn't drop. Not yet. 2 blocks later, my phone buzzed in the cup holder. Court system notification. Emergency filing submitted. I exhaled through my teeth. Slow, controlled. I tapped the screen. Took a screenshot. then another showing the timestamp, 8:07. I dialed my attorney while driving. Speaker on, Marcus, I've been intercepted on I-64. False stolen vehicle report by Claire Hale. Get the gate footage and my dashcam cloud link ready. I'm heading to the hearing now. Then, I called the probate clerk to ensure the delay was on the record. This is Vanessa Hale, I began. I'm en route to the 8:30 hearing. I'm delayed due to a law enforcement verification related to a corporate vehicle. She paused. Keyboard clicks. Are you detained? No, I replied. I'm driving now. A unit is following pending VAN confirmation. Noted, she said. We'll place it in the file. Please do, I added. And please note the time of this call. 8:08, she confirmed. Thank you. I ended the call and pulled over briefly, just long enough to save the call log and the voicemail Claire had left earlier that morning. Short, tight, no greeting, just pressure. I labeled everything and dropped it into a folder named Today. The cruiser stayed back. Not threatening. Watching. I pulled back onto the road. Downtown signs started to appear. But my eyes stayed on the clock. 8:12, 8:13. Claire hadn't needed me arrested. She hadn't needed cuffs. She needed paper. Filed paper. Paper with stamps and urgency and the kind of language judges skim fast. Highway chaos had just been the opening move. The real fight was already waiting inside the building. By the time I walked into the courtroom, Claire was already seated, close to the aisle, tissue in hand, Jack beside her, staring straight ahead like he'd been told not to move. Her attorney stood before the bench, voice smooth, urgent in the way people get when they want speed to stand in for proof. Your Honor, he began, this morning, my client's mother-in-law was involved in an active police investigation, given the emotional instability reported and the risk to corporate assets. We're requesting emergency relief. I didn't look at Claire. I watched the judge's pen pause. The attorney continued. Specifically, we're asking for temporary control over estate-linked company decisions until this situation is resolved. Temporary. That word again. Always temporary when someone wants everything. The judge glanced at me. Ms. Hale. I stood. My legs felt fine. That surprised me. Your Honor, I replied, before we discuss fitness or stability, I need the record to reflect something very specific. The attorney opened his mouth. The judge raised a hand. Were you arrested this morning? The judge asked me. No. Charged with a crime? No. Detained? No. Your Honor, I let that settle. Not dramatic, just air. I was subject to a vehicle verification after a report was filed. I continued. I have the incident number. I have confirmation that the VIN matches corporate registration. I also have the supervisor's contact information if the court would like independent verification. Claire dabbed her eyes. Soft. Careful. A performance calibrated for this room. Her attorney leaned in again. Your Honor, the concern is not just arrest. It's risk. The reporting party flagged. I waited for the attorney to take a breath, then caught the judge's eye. Your Honor, if I may, since the reporting party is present in this room, I'd like to address the foundation of their emergency concern directly. The judge's eyes flicked to Claire. Just for a second. Enough. I'm not here to defend my personality, I added. I'm here to confirm procedure. If there's no arrest, no charge, and no detention, then there is no legal basis to remove me as executor on an emergency theory. Silence. Paper shuffled. The judge looked back at the attorney. Do you dispute that the report originated with your client? He hesitated. Claire squeezed the tissue harder. We filed based on credible concern, he replied. I nodded once. And I'm asking the court to verify how that concern was generated. Jack shifted in his seat. Claire didn't look at him. I stayed standing. Calm, hands folded. If this was chess, Claire had just sacrificed speed for spectacle, and courts don't reward spectacle. Claire's attorney didn't sit down. Your Honor, he continued, like momentum itself was evidence. Given the volatility displayed this morning, my client has also filed an ex parte request for a temporary restraining order. That finally pulled my eyes to Claire. She stared at the bench. Not at me. Her jaw was tight. Her hands didn't shake. The judge leaned back slightly. This order hasn't been granted. Of course, the attorney replied. We're asking for immediate review. Ms. Hale threatened my client last night. My client feared for her safety. Claire nodded on cue. I felt something cold slide into place. Not anger. Geometry. The judge turned to me. Ms. Hale, I wasn't with her last night. I answered. My voice came out steady. I didn't soften it. And I can prove that right now. The attorney frowned. Your Honor, this is a sensitive I'd like any statements regarding alleged threats entered under oath. I said, cutting in carefully, and preserved in the record. Claire's head snapped toward me. Just for a second. That was the first real crack. The judge looked between us. Miss Hale, you're asserting an alibi. Yes, I replied. Time stamped. Location verified. Independent witnesses. The courtroom went quiet in that way that isn't silence. It's recalibration. Claire swallowed. Her attorney shifted his weight. The judge tapped her pen once. This court does not issue restraining orders based on implication. The request will remain under review pending verification. I nodded. Not gratitude. Acknowledgement. I added one more thing. Given the seriousness of the allegation, I'm requesting the court note that the reporting party's statements are sworn. Claire's lips parted, then pressed together. The tissue in her hand tore a little. Jack leaned toward her, whispering something urgent. She didn't respond. I stayed where I was. Still, letting the air do its work. If I wasn't there last night, then what Claire had just submitted wasn't fear. It was a sworn lie, stamped with urgency and hope that no one would check the clock. The judge nodded once. Proceed. I opened my folder, not fast, not slow, just clean. First, I began. The biometric log from my smart lock and my building's elevator security footage. I entered my apartment at 6:45 p.m. and didn't trigger the exit sensors until this morning. My phone's location history simply confirms what the physical security data proves. The clerk typed. The judge watched the timestamps. Not me. Second, I continued. A receipt from the restaurant downstairs in that building. Dinner at 7:05, paid at 8:10. I slid the paper forward. The name on the receipt matches the reservation. Claire's attorney leaned in. Your Honor. The judge lifted a finger. Let her finish. Third, I added. 2 independent witnesses. Not family. The building manager and the night concierge. Both confirm I arrived before 7 and didn't leave. The judge turned to the clerk. Mark all 3? Claire's shoulders tightened. She shook her head. Small, like denial could erase minutes. Her attorney tried again. Memories can be imperfect. Stress. This isn't memory, the judge replied. This is data. I stayed quiet. That part was important. The judge looked at Claire. Your declaration places Ms. Hale at your residence at 8:45. Claire's mouth opened, closed. She glanced at Jack. Then away. Do you have anything to support that timeline, the judge asked? Silence. Paper rustled. The clock on the wall ticked, loud enough to feel personal. The judge turned back to me. Ms. Hale, you're asserting these filings, both the police report and the ex parte request, were intended to delay probate. Yes, I replied. and to interfere with my role as executor. The judge wrote something down. Slow, deliberate. Pattern matters, she said. Not to me. To the room. Claire pressed her lips together. Her attorney leaned close, whispering fast. Jack stared at the table like it might swallow him. I added one final thing. Measured. I'm asking the court to note the sequence. The timing. The escalation. The judge looked up, noted. That was it. No lecture. No drama. Just a record tightening around a story that couldn't hold its shape anymore. I closed my folder and rested my hands on top of it. Whatever my husband had anticipated, it was about to speak without needing my voice. Your Honor, I said, stepping forward, I'd like to direct the court's attention to Article 4, Section 2 of the decedent's will, the bad faith interference clause. The judge nodded. Acknowledging the gravity of the provision, this clause was my husband's safeguard, written in plain language to punish false allegations and the use of legal systems to obstruct probate. The consequence was absolute forfeiture of all interest in the estate. Claire's attorney straightened. Too fast. The judge kept going. She didn't look at Claire while she spoke. She laid out the sequence instead. The high-risk stop initiated after a report filed by an interested party. The emergency motion citing an investigation that didn't exist. The ex parte request built on a sworn statement that didn't match data. Taken together, the judge continued. These actions suggest manipulation of process rather than protection from harm. Claire shook her head. I was scared. The judge looked at her then. Just once. Fear doesn't create timestamps. I stayed still, hands folded. I didn't need to add anything. The judge turned a page. The court is not making a criminal finding today. We are making a procedural one. Her pen tapped once. Ms. Hale, you remain the executor. Claire's breath caught. Jack looked up at me. Finally, his eyes were wide. Confused. Almost apologetic. I didn't nod. I didn't reach for him. I let him sit with it. The judge went on. Given the conduct outlined, all further filings related to this estate will be made through counsel. Direct contact is limited. I stood then. Not to celebrate. To finish the job. I'm requesting those orders be entered today, I added, and that the record reflect the origin of the police report and the sworn statements attached to the ex parte filing. The judge nodded. So ordered. Claire sank back into her chair. Her attorney leaned close, whispering hard now. Jack didn't move. I sat down again. The will lay open between us like it had been waiting. My husband had always believed systems only fail when people stop documenting. I let the clerk gather the papers. Let the judge sign. The room felt quieter, not calmer, just contained. For the first time all morning, no one rushed to speak. The judge signed without looking up. Paper slid. Ink dried. That was it. Letters of authority are issued, she noted. Effective immediately. Claire didn't speak. Her attorney touched her arm. Quick. Controlling. Jack stared at the floor. I didn't wait for anyone to meet my eyes. Outside the courtroom, a clerk handed me the stamped copies. Warm paper. Real weight. By noon, I was on the phone with the bank. Then the insurer. Then the corporate registrar. Each call was short. Boring. Powerful in the way boring things are. Mailing control changed. Account access rerouted. Company communications pointed to my office. No speeches. No explanations. One administrator hesitated. We received instructions earlier. Yes, I replied. Those are no longer valid. Please check the timestamp. That ended it. I placed the stamped court order on my dashboard, a legal shield stronger than any false police report. Only then did I sit in the sedan. Winning didn't feel loud. It felt quiet. Administrative. Like a clean audit or locking a door that should have been bolted years ago. Don't chase revenge. Chase the record. Systems protect paper, not pain. I pulled out of the garage slow, my mind already documenting the next access codes I would revoke.